A bustling cityscape looms into view, towering buildings casting long shadows over the streets below. Inside one of these buildings, the sound of hurried footsteps echoes through a dimly lit corridor. A person sprints down the hallway. Urgency is palpable at every step. Suddenly, a man's voice cuts through the tension, clear and commanding. The chief hunters are here. Hunter Hong Seokyeong has arrived. A girl rushed in, her eyes wide with fear, and informed the group that there were kids. Captain Hong Seokyeong stepped forward, his presence commanding. He called gently, "Children, come out." One by one, the children emerged from their hiding spots. Captain Hong picked up a small child, cradling him protectively. The child's eyes widened in shock as he spotted the chief lying on the floor, begging for his life. Captain Hong asked softly, "What's your name?" The child replied, his voice trembling, 12. Captain Hong's expression shifted from concern to shock. Anger surged through him as he turned back toward the chief, striking him repeatedly. The child watched, thoughts swirling about the absolute power that commanded fear and respect. The brutal scene was abruptly interrupted as an inspector pulled Captain Hong back, commanding, "That's enough." This brought a sudden, tense silence to the room. Captain Hong Seokyeong, fists clenched, turned to the inspector and asked, "What are you doing here?" The inspector, calm yet firm, replied, "I knew you'd be up to something like this. Let him go, right now." A small voice piped up from behind. The child asked the inspector with curiosity in his eyes. I suppose he was Captain Hong's boss. The inspector shook his head, a hint of a smile on his lips, and said, "No, I just scold him when he does something bad." The child frowned in confusion and remarked that that's what a boss is and how the chief used to scold the other lab members, and he hates us too. The mention of the chief reignited Captain Hong's anger. His eyes flashed with determination as he growled, "I will make sure he pays for what he's done." The child turned his attention back to the inspector and asked curiously if he was a hunter. The inspector chuckled softly and replied that he was not, but he reminded the child not to judge a book by its cover. He added, "There are other ways to scold people besides beating them." The child, with eyes wide with curiosity, asked what he had to do to become like the inspector. The inspector's expression softened as he replied, "You have to study hard and pass an exam given by the nation." The child contemplated the power of the hunter and the authority of the inspector. This moment etched itself into his memory, setting the course for his future. The story shifts to 19 years later, on May 31, 2044. Focusing on the towering building of the management agency in Seoul, South Korea. Inside, a handsome young man is seen presiding over a meeting. He announces in a steady and authoritative voice, "The dungeons in Yeongdeungpo and Inwang Mountain have reached level 3 today." The members of the meeting exchange frustrated glances and murmur among themselves, making various comments about the situation. The young man commands, "Quiet. Listen carefully so that none of you get lost inside the dungeons. Team 2 will handle the Yeongdeungpo dungeon, while Team 1 will take care of the Inwang Mountain dungeon. Teams 3 and 4 are on rest for now." Turning to Team Leader 2, he continues in a businesslike tone, "The equipment is ready. Please double-check that nothing is missing before entry at 2 p.m. Finally, he asks the group, "Does anyone have any questions?" Nobody responds. He concludes the meeting with, "All right, get lunch and be on standby." Everyone leaves except Hunter Yoo Jiun. The young leader notices and asks, "What is it, you?" Yoo inquires about the dungeon she mentioned earlier. The man replies in a calm manner, "It's a D6 rank dungeon. You know we only send people on raids once they reach threat level 2. Yoo, looking uneasy, responds, "I don't have a good feeling about it." The man counters, "We can't close a dungeon based on your feelings. You shouldn't abuse your power just because you're an S-class hunter." Yoo, angered, retorts, "You're the one abusing power, Nepo baby." Remaining composed, the man replies, "Have you ever seen a more capable and skilled Nepo baby? I would have fired you long ago if you weren't good at your job." Yoo sighs, admitting, "I still don't have a good feeling about it." But the man, already preparing to leave, smiles and says, "It's no longer work hours. Don't contact me now. And you can't because you're going into the dungeon." Yu, in shock, shouts, "Wu Hui!" But Wu is already gone. 2 days later, in Busan, at a restaurant by the sea, Wu Hui sat with two girls, showing off his unique watch. He informed them, "This was created by the government. There are only two of these." Explaining his job, he said, "I have a license, but I'm not a hunter. I work for the agency and am a direct affiliate of the director." Excited, the girls asked, "You mean the best hunter, Hong Xiaokaoang?" Wu confirmed, "Yes. It's embarrassing to say, but he's a father." When they questioned if Hong Xiaokaoang was his father, Wu clarified, "No, he's my adoptive father. I lost my parents in an accident, and the agency saved and adopted me. Don't think of me as a Nepo baby. I've worked hard for this position." When asked why he was celebrating, Wu boasted, "I'm on vacation to celebrate my promotion. I didn't want to, but I was kicked out." The girls reassured him, "It's good to be on vacation too. We're also on holiday." They asked to see the watch again, and Wu explained, "We call it a watch, but it's a hunter-exclusive miniature multimodal communication device. It recognizes your mana patterns, so only the owner can use it." As he activated the watch, it displayed news about the dungeons, making the girls nervous. "The threat level is suddenly going up," one of the girls observed anxiously. In Seoul, Wu received a call informing him about a dungeon emergency in Banggi-dong. The caller was urgent, but Wu tried to reassure him, "It's okay. I don't think anything bad will happen since it's a D-ranked dungeon." However, the caller contradicted him, reporting massive destruction in Songpa district. Wu's face paled as he absorbed the news. Arriving in a helicopter, Wu witnessed the devastation caused by monsters. His mana watch alerted him to global dungeon breaks and the disappearance of the agency director, Hong Xiaokaoang. Determined to find survivors, Wu encountered a dying woman who knew about the centipede from Banggi-dong. Despite her critical condition, she handed Wu a locket belonging to Hong Xiaokaoang and urged him to give his adoptive father a proper funeral. In grief and frustration, Wu was interrupted by the appearance of a massive centipede. After a fierce battle, he discovered a watch-like device dropped by the centipede. Activating it, the device initiated emergency procedures and offered him a choice to set a date. Confused and alarmed by the device's warnings, Wu realized the gravity of the situation. As chaos ensued, Wu pleaded with the device to ensure his survival. The device confirmed him as the final survivor and activated a protocol to transport him to a random time. He woke up lying down, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. He wondered, bewildered by the abrupt change in surroundings and circumstances. "Mister, are you a hunter? Isn't the whole world getting destroyed? Where am I?" He struggled to make sense of his surroundings, noticing the unfamiliar faces around him. Someone asked with concern, "Mister, are you okay? You seem dazed." Another voice chimed in, sounding worried. "Can you talk? Are you concussed? I can't heal you with my powers then." His gaze shifted to an ancient-looking computer nearby, its screen displaying a 2024 calendar. Shock washed over him as he realized the year. He muttered to himself, 2024 suddenly. He heard someone call out, "Hyunwook." Turning towards the voice, a man approached him urgently. The man said urgently, "We don't have time to wait for you to fully come to your senses. Mister, you heard that right." Struggling to get to his feet, Hyunwook's mind raced with questions and disbelief. He wondered aloud, why, after all these years? April 5, 2024, Myeongdong, Seoul. The day when out of 46 people building, only 5 will escape death. Wu Hui mulled over the events before losing consciousness, the carnage of monsters and people on the highway, Yu Jian, and the agency director. He thought to himself, have I returned to the past? Recalling his academic paper on dungeon breaks, Wu understood their unpredictability despite being managed manually back then, right before the advent of modern magic measurement devices. He asked the high school students around him, Aren't you guys Hunter High School students? Haven't you learned anything about dungeon breaks? One of the girls nervously replied. We came here today to learn about them, so. Another student provided an approximate time of the dungeon break, but Wu corrected her to the exact time. Reflecting on the agency director's regrets, Wu silently resolved, at least that won't be happening this time. One of the boys hesitantly asked, Who are you, mister? Before Wu could explain, a girl interrupted, questioning his lack of a hunter's license. Unable to produce one valid for this timeline, he swung his sword to prove himself, hoping to earn their trust. Spotting Lee Seunjeon, Wu contemplated the ramifications of his death and the institutions built thereafter. He silently mused, if I have no identity, I can become a hero beyond reproach. The students asked about their escape plans. Wu confidently declared they would head to City Hall, intending to weaken Lee Seunjeon's runes and engineer a scenario where he could save the heir from danger. The students protested, pointing out the impracticality of reaching City Hall from their current location. He addressed the group firmly, offering those who wished to leave the option to do so, but no one volunteered. Turning to a girl who knew the area well, Wu asked her to draw a map. She sketched out the surroundings, pinpointing their location and the S-ranked Minotaur's whereabouts. Armed with this knowledge, Wu began formulating a strategy to navigate through the dangerous territory ahead. He listened intently as the girl identified a crucial spot on the map, the outer perimeter where their defense line was set up to prevent the monsters from spreading further. She assured everyone that staying there ensured their survival. When a student suggested staying put until the boss monster was defeated to end the dungeon's lockdown, Wu grimly responded, The Minotaur is like a dictator to these monsters. He outlined his plan and asked if anyone disagreed. No one voiced objections. Then, he asked if any mages knew how to draw runes. Stressing the monster's sensitivity to mana, he instructed them to carefully throw the runes to hide their mana signatures, ensuring they wouldn't be detected. Turning to the students, Wu confirmed, You know how to activate the runes, right? Fill your hands with mana. When I give the signal and leave, activate them immediately. As he adjusted Lee's mana to make it weaker and less likely to attract attention, Wu took a bold step, luring the monsters into a loop around the neighborhood. When he passed by again, the students activated their runes and started running. They watched anxiously as Wu engaged the monsters in combat. Amidst the chaos, the students pondered Yu's identity and intentions, having no choice but to trust him. When Wu returned, they shouted instructions to ensure the safety of civilians. A tense moment arrived when a monster targeted Lee Seunjeon. Swiftly, Wu intervened, saving him and urging him to flee. Teamwork and quick decisions remained crucial for survival in the face of relentless danger. Standing on a building while monsters roamed outside, Wu thought to himself, Where the hell do those bastards keep coming from? It was a struggle to get out of there. I understand that I am the one who gathered them, but still. Thinking about the dungeon, Wu checked his mana watch and saw that it was still functioning properly. Opening the watch, he realized that this place was similar to that dungeon. He muttered, Telling me to change the fate of this world, huh? Just then, Wu saw hunters coming into the area, followed by a minotaur. He thought to himself, They must be the hunters from Namsan. There is no need for me to intervene. The boss was originally defeated by that team anyway. He reflected. Moreover, there is the agency director. They attack their subordinates without recognizing them. Better for us. Thanks to that, the little ones have scattered, so focus on binding the boss first. Wu considered it VIP protocol to witness the legendary hunters of modern history. He watched Archmage Keeman perform her unique magic to defeat those monsters, which were lost after her death. He thought to himself, It is an honor to witness it with my own eyes. Come to think of it, how did she die? If I could save the life of such a significant figure, I should be able to help. He continued, The threat level of the Bangi Dong dungeon hasn't changed in 20 years. 2 S-rank hunters won't suffice, considering such a monster was hiding inside a stable dungeon. If I could prevent the deaths of those originally destined to die, Like the model school students, there's a chance the future might change. First, I need to close the Bangi Dong dungeon and find the dungeon where the person who set Seoul on fire is hiding. This plan made me happy. Why? While on the road, hunters fought tirelessly with monsters. Kemen used magic to control a cow-headed monster, severing one of its legs. Despite this, it continued to rampage until Mr. Hong disabled its other remaining leg. Kemen was still struggling to control the beast when it fell towards Wu Hui. The hunters, mistaking him for a citizen, were shocked to see him holding a sword. Wu Hui cut the monster in two with his sword, stunning everyone. He casually said, "It looks like you're busy, so don't mind me and continue what you were doing." The hunters, astonished, asked, "Who is he?" He replied, "I'm just passing by." Wu found himself in an investigation center being questioned due to his lack of a social security number or fingerprint information. Mr. Hong decided to investigate him further, turning off the camera to speak privately. He introduced himself as Hong Xiaokaewon, and Wu shared his name. Hong showed him a drawing that had covered a laboratory wall. Wu recognized it and Mr. Hong reassured him, "Don't be nervous. We were very worried about you." Surprised, Wu asked, "Do you know me?" Mr. Hong replied, "If things had gone according to plan, we would have met under better circumstances. Anyway, you made it out safely, exactly as I heard from the blue mana fire and the sword." Confused, Wu said, "I don't quite understand what you're talking about." Mr. Hong explained, "I am the teacher that Kim was talking about." Wu thought, "Kim? Is he mistaking me for a whistleblower from Bangju?" Hong continued, "We had agreed to help with the escape. I want to catch those guys as much as you do. I've already prepared an identity for you on this side. They're too occupied with handling the Myeongdong incident to pay attention to a hunter suddenly appearing. I only knew your name was Wu, so I gave you a temporary name." Considering his good luck, Wu thought, "How fortunate this is. It explains why my background is unclear. But to rush into this, I know the agency director won't trust me easily, and there are still some uncertainties." Hong proposed, "Should I call you Wu Hui?" Wu replied, "Yes," Hong declared. "You'll be working under me for a while." Wu asked, "For surveillance," Hong answered. "You can take it like that. I can't afford to let you off so freely. Anyway, I look forward to working with you." Later, Wu reflected, "I ended up working under the agency director here too. He's not the agency director or my foster father." He said aloud, "I do," and they shook hands. Now we see Mr. Hong and Wu sitting together. Hong said, "I was thinking about something." Wu thought, "The results of this man's thinking have never been good." Hong continued, "I know the skill level of my students best. Everyone would have been dead if it had not been for you. My students were all crying for me to find you, and since I felt the need to repay you for what you have done, I decided to give it some thought." Wu thought, "Why is he thinking so damn much?" Hong then said, "Teach me." Wu was shocked. "You want me to teach the kids?" he asked. Hong explained, "Just from looking at the agency director, it's clear how deep the bond between a disciple and master runs. There are 7 people, including Yu Jian from Hunter High, who consider the agency director their teacher. They would have done great on their own, but voluntarily came into the management agency to be leashed. If I create a good connection with those guys, they should secure my future after saving the world. But it would be stupid of me to do it." Wu thought, "What would I teach the kids when I can't even use mana? If it's just about fighting, you are a better candidate, miss." Mr. Hong interjected, "Uncle, you are a better candidate, uncle." Wu replied, "Yes, I can teach them how to fight. The problem is magic. So regarding the runes that hide your mana, did you make them yourself?" Wu thought to himself, "That's why I should have just kept quiet." Aloud, he said, "You want me to teach them about runes?" Mr. Hong responded, "It doesn't matter whether it was you who made them or not. You just need to know about most runes like that. I told them I was going to be teaching how to read runes, but I guess it would be suspicious for an illegally awakened person who recently escaped an isolated criminal organization to know a lot about that. Wu corrected him. First, runes are not magic, Mr. Hong countered. But they might be of great use for the kids. Wu pondered. I am not someone suited for teaching. Mr. Hong insisted. No, you are the perfect teacher. I can see it. Wu thought. Should I just say I made them and get them patented? Or is that too immoral? Wu concluded. No, even if I don't get them patented, I will be able to save many lives if I spread the knowledge of them. I can't find and save every hunter personally, so if I tell the public about these runes. He then signed the contract. Hong informed him, I have taken care of the certified copies and the bank account. I will give them to you later. I call it a school, but it's managed with my own money, so you will be listed as a guild member. Since you are not doing dungeon raids, there is no other incentive, so I just based your monthly salary on the minimum wage. Angry, Wu exclaimed, I have been scammed. 2 days later, they were in a van on the road. Inside, Mr. Hong and Wu were sitting. Mr. Hong remarked, That sword is nice, by the way. It recognizes its owner and has sent lots of people to the hospital. Is it yours? Wu replied. No, it belongs to someone I know. Mr. Hong questioned, Did you steal it then? Wu thought to himself, I would have been buried too. This sword hated me, but now it knows that Jiun gave it to me before dying. Aloud, he replied, You're not mad because I didn't return it to you, are you? Even if you gave it back to me, I wouldn't be able to use it because of the mana restriction device. So, you are mad? Wu clarified, No, but Mr. Hong insisted. Yes, you are. Hong continued, Our school does not allow blades anyway, so I can't use it either. It's not like your lessons will require weapons. Wu thought to himself, You can just say that you don't want a suspicious man with a weapon around your students. Goodness, why are you so pessimistic? He noticed their rural surroundings and wondered, Are we going the right way? Is he taking me somewhere strange? Mr. Hong explained, It is because the area here is restricted from development due to the nearby dungeons, which makes it perfect for raising hunters. They reached a clearing, and Mr. Hong announced, We are going to construct the buildings next year. This is just temporary. You will have to teach them here until then. Wu exclaimed, Welcome to Hunter High School, Mr. Wu. Now we see both of them standing in a classroom. Mr. Hong introduced Wu as the new teacher who would teach them runes and remarked, I know some of you have seen him before, but don't be too mean to him, right? Hyunwook raised his hand and inquired, Didn't that mister use a sword instead of magic? Are we going to learn the old hiding runes or the new ones? Hong replied. The new ones. He should be of great help to you too, so don't fall asleep during his lessons. A student asked, Is it okay for him to teach us that stuff? Someone else responded, Would he be here teaching you if it wasn't okay? Why don't you want to learn about runes? A girl asked. Can only mages participate in that lesson then? Hong clarified. No, but only mages can draw runes. Our school district is flexible, though, so you can join his lessons if you want. Amidst the chatter, Wu felt the kids were like innocent little ducklings. They are so different from the hunters they will be in 20 years, he thought. Spotting Park Seoyeon looking nervous, he wondered, Wasn't she normal the last time I saw her? It's only been 10 days since the Myeongdong incident. How did she become the witch Park Seoyeon that I know? Reflecting on his past, Wu recalled, When I was young, I used to wonder why we had to learn these things, but the director was right. You've got to know about technology. He fiddled with his watch device, attempting to access information about the group that caught Hong Seokyeong and records possibly involving Mr. Kim, but struggled with the computer's format. He also recalled learning about Park Seoyeon's preferences and demeanor, noting, She hates when someone praises her magic, and when she's not smiling, it's a sign to back off because you're in danger. In case of emergency, mention the names Yoo Jiun or Oh Hyun-wook, but never mention Myeongdong. The next day at school, Wu was lost in thought when Lee interrupted. Mr. Wu, What are you thinking about? Do you remember me? Of course, Wu replied absent-mindedly. Li asked, Mr. Wu, where is your sword? My aunt was curious after hearing about it. She uses a sword too. Wu thought to himself. His aunt must be that woman named Liu Mission, a hunter with a powerful background and skills that don't fall short either. Considering how much Liu Mission adored Li Xunzhong, my future just might be secured. Mr. Hong then called out to Wu, bringing him back to reality. What is it? Wu asked. Oh, I was preparing a classroom for you, Hong replied. Wu responded dryly. A class? In this room. We've been using this room as storage space. Hong reassured him. Don't worry, we'll clean it up later. Wu added, meaning you're never going to clean it up. Do something about Park Seoyan, please. Hong asked. Do what exactly? Wu expressed concern. She looks very different from when I saw her in Myeongdong. Hong agreed. True, her personality suddenly changed a lot. During his rune class, Wu pondered. Why are they here for the rune class when they can't even use them? He addressed the students. Let's assess your levels today, and noted various performances, including Park Seoyan's, who appeared angry. Wu wondered, why does no one find this strange, or is this normal and I am the weird one? Park Seoyan raised her hand and asked, why didn't you teach us this at Myeongdong? Wu hesitated before she continued. Never mind. I drew the wrong runes in the first place, so they didn't activate. Even if I knew, it would be pointless. Wu thought to himself, is Park Seoyan in this state right now because I weakened Li Xunzhong's runes? After class, Wu clapped his hands and announced, it's lunchtime, let's go eat. Reflecting, he thought, but as an adult and a teacher, it is my responsibility. Wu and Mr. Hong were then seen sitting and eating a convenience store lunch. Mr. Hong remarked, you are pretty knowledgeable about runes. Did you make them yourself? Wu replied, do we have to talk about this even when we are eating? Mr. Hong continued, someone I know made them. Wu thought, looks like he doesn't know much about the inner workings of the ARC Research Center. Mr. Hong asked further, how are you teaching the two magic students? Wu clarified, I'm finding magic books to teach them. Xiaoyan is doing fine, but Junwoo is the problem. He looks like he has the talent, but it's hard to find a master for him. Do you happen to know anyone? I told you, I'm not a mage, Wu replied. I'm just making sure, Mr. Hong said. While I may not know magic, I will teach them all the runes that I know of. Mr. Hong was surprised. What? Really? Wu confirmed. Yes, I'll do my best to teach them everything I can. Even though I'm not a mage, I understand the importance of runes. They can be just as crucial as any spell. Mr. Hong smiled gratefully. That's great to hear. Thank you, Wu. This will be a huge help to the students. Wu thought, even if it isn't my specialty, I can't deny the responsibility. If teaching them runes can help them survive and thrive, it's worth it. Wu reflected on how his initial intention had been to teach the children a few runes and leave it at that. However, upon observing their current state, he realized they wouldn't survive long without more guidance. Recalling the mage from France who created the mana hiding rune, a man with golden hair who looked splendid, Wu remembered the mage's philosophy of being happy if his work could save even a single life. Despite others profiting from their latecomer advantage, the mage had published his runes for free to save as many people as possible. With a wry thought, Wu decided, at least he won't complain about me taking credit in his place. With this in mind, Wu proposed a new condition to Hong, stating, I know a place where there are many kids. I need you to head over there. The next day, Mr. Hong was training with his students, teaching them how to fight. Wu observed as Park Seoyan and Hongwook diligently drew runes. Wu approached Xiaoyun and asked, are you drawing it in the order I told you? Let me see if you're doing it right. In a nervous voice, she replied, I'll show you later once I'm able to draw better. Determined to help them improve, Wu reassured her. My role is to help you guys get better, she responded. Later, Wu reflected on how Hong had treated him upon learning about Wu's rank. Hong had seemed pleased to see Wu's results, a memory that lingered in Wu's mind. Back in the present, Wu told Seong to show him her results whenever she wanted, trying to encourage her by saying, "From what I see, you have enough talent to become an archmage." Most archmages are usually stubborn from a young age and tend to hate being distracted. However, his words seemed to have the opposite effect on Seong, making her more depressed. She replied, "I am sorry." Seeing her reaction, Wu became nervous and tried to reassure her. "I'm just saying you can do whatever you want." But Seong remained upset, saying, "I was wrong, I am sorry." To control the situation and ease the tension, Wu finally said, "Let's wrap it up now." After seeing off the students, Wu asked about their living arrangements. Hong replied, "No, they live in a dorm." Hong then brought up a concerning topic, the rise in child kidnapping cases. "The targets are usually awakened children, and they don't even ask for a ransom," Hong explained. "The place you mentioned with many kids. It's the ARC Research Center, right?" Wu responded. "You're not thinking that all the kids at the ARC are kidnapped children, are you?" "What?" "There are orphanages among the places that the ARC manages. I can count on one hand the ones I know, so I am sure many are being run in the dark," Hong clarified. "My condition is that you save all those children, but you also let me join in on the operation. You realize that I have made many concessions for you," Hong replied. Wu tried to calm Hong down, saying, "Are you just going to take the children away and be done with it? Are you not going to look around the famous research centers of the ARC? The current team has enough members ready, but I'm sure you're lacking people who can break the security for the ARC's research center. Also, I have someone I need to find. I wonder if that child is safe." Hong considered this and said, "But it will take some time to gather useful people for this mission." Wu asked, "Can they be trusted?" Hong responded confidently. "What do you take me for? I don't mess around when it comes to cases involving kids." During Wu's class, Xiaoyan appeared gloomy as usual while Jinwoo surveyed the room. Li arrived with Sunjin, a classmate who wished to see Wu's sword but couldn't. Wu considered the potential of having two talented students despite his reluctance to share his expertise. Suddenly, Archmage Kim Kimin arrived in a car outside. She had been invited to teach basic mana usage at the school, but expressed skepticism about the students' aptitude for advanced magic. Spotting Xiaoyan, Kimin assumed she must already know the basics, but Hong explained they needed her help regarding an issue related to the ARC. Kimin recognized Wu and exclaimed about him being the person who was on the rooftop and then taken away. Wu introduced himself, and Hong informed Kimin that Wu taught runes. He instructed students to bring their drawn runes outside, which surprised Kimin upon seeing them. Wu lit up the rune page, demonstrating magic without apparent mana. Impressed, Kimin asked to become Wu's student, shocking everyone present. Days later, on May 15, 2024, Hong's men were seen around the ARC's building, planning to evacuate the children. They discovered the entire building was mysteriously empty. Wu found this impossible and decided to investigate further, rushing inside with the team. They accessed the basement area using a code but found it empty as well, except for signs suggesting recent activity and intentions to return. Finding a locked door labeled as the main research lab, Wu suggested it held crucial research material. Inside, they found children's toys but nothing else. Hong broke the glass in frustration. Reflecting on the place's significance, Wu remarked, "This place is as spectacular as ever." The narrative then shifted to the past at the ARC Research Center. Young Wu asked his partner what he was writing. The partner explained that his dad, a lawyer, taught him that evidence was crucial. They discussed how the lab chief didn't hit the kids, but sometimes kicked the lab workers. The partner planned to write it down truthfully as a witness. Returning to the present, Guild Master Dawson arrived. Wu noted how she looked the same as she did in the past. They read letters from children addressed to someone called Brother or Wu. Found in the lab 2 days later, Sunjin was sitting on the ground while Hyunwook and Lee argued. Sunjin suddenly attacked Hyunwook, who protested that it was cheating, but Sunjin defended herself, citing the unpredictability of dungeon challenges. a car arrived on the school grounds, and Lee's aunt stepped out. Lee and his aunt argued about relationships, with Woo smiling at the familiar family dynamics. The children gathered to eat food brought by Lee's aunt. Mr. Hong called Woo and Miss Kim, the guild master. She announced that she had acquired the Songpa Bangi Dong dungeon, and they would soon explore it. She questioned Woo about why his brother wrote those letters, but Woo claimed ignorance. In her thoughts, she wondered if Woo truly didn't know, or if he was hiding something because he had never written such letters in the past. The next day, Woo decided to teach the children a new rune. Miss Kim asked him how many runes he knew in total. Woo playfully deflected, questioning her curiosity, but she insisted it was natural for a student to be curious about their teacher's knowledge. Woo clarified he wasn't a mage and they hadn't formalized any contract, so she shouldn't call him master. Woo introduced the shadow rune on the board and instructed the students to draw it. Seoyeon drew it and showed it. He complimented her work and instructed her to activate the rune. Seoyeon did so effortlessly. Guild Master Kim, sitting nearby, asked about the mana cover rune. Woo explained it was a rune that concealed mana usage. She admitted she didn't know and thought children were prohibited from discussing it with their families. They delved into Miss Kim's family history, revealing her lineage of archmages with the same attribute for 3 generations, a rarity even on an international level. Mr. Hong warned Woo that because he knew about runes, he might become a target for attacks. Later, they reassured Woo they'd ensure his contributions were recognized in history. Reflecting on potentially overshadowing famous figures, Woo consoled himself with the belief that those people sought to save as many lives as possible, justifying their actions. They headed out for a meal together. Afterward, as they returned to the school grounds, they found Guild Master Kim bringing various items for the students. Woo and Lee Miseon finally had a proper introduction. As they conversed, Lee Miseon mentioned something intriguing to Woo Lee Miseon. By the way, have you heard about installing a subspace? Woo's eyes lit up with interest upon hearing this. Woo, really? That's fascinating. Subspace technology could change a lot of things. Lee Miseon nodded, sensing Woo's enthusiasm for the topic. Lee Miseon. It's a revolutionary concept. We're looking into implementing it soon. Woo, I'd love to learn more about it. Lee Miseon, absolutely. Let's discuss it further. Mr. Hong headed towards the Songpa district dungeon, and Woo expressed his desire to accompany him. However, Mr. Hong refused, citing potential unknown dangers from the Ark. He insisted on investigating alone and assured Woo that he would return soon, instructing him to take care of the children in his absence. The next morning, a coffee truck appeared in the school garden. Woo gathered the students and delivered a lesson on survival and instincts. Woo explained that survival often favors the strongest and asked if anyone had ever been inside a dungeon. Seo Hanseong replied affirmatively, stating it was different and likening it to entering a different dimension where instincts were crucial for survival. Woo assured them he wouldn't push them to their limits, but encouraged them to give their best. Meanwhile, in District Bangi Dong, Seoul, Mr. Hong, Lee Miseon, and other hunters gathered. They approached the dungeon entrance for exploration. 5 hunters, including Mr. Hong, entered the dungeon at 1 p.m. Inside, everything appeared calm and initially safe, suggesting it might be a D or C rank dungeon with insect-like herbivorous monsters. However, they soon made an unsettling discovery. The monsters showed no interest in regular meat, but preferred rotten flesh, indicating a potentially higher level of danger. Back at the school, the children seemed tired from their training. Soon after, a car arrived carrying a child to meet her elder sister. Woo recognized her as Yu Jian and was surprised by her respectful demeanor towards him. Jiun asked Woo if he could accompany them to the district office because she needed a guarantor with a seed rank or higher, having awakened. Woo was visibly shocked by this revelation. Jiun explained the urgency of registering a device within a week to avoid a fine. Woo suggested Miss Kim accompany them, but she declined, citing concerns about media attention as an S-rank mage. Persuaded by everyone, Woo reluctantly agreed. Jiun then expressed her desire to become Woo's disciple. but he declined, suggesting she visit after graduating. Jian insisted on purifying impurities from her body using magic, showing Wu a pamphlet, but he dismissed it as unreliable and advised her to wait for the principal. Later that night, Miss Kim and Mr. Hong informed Wu about Jian's awakening and her persistence in wanting to become his disciple. Mr. Hong showed Wu a picture of a corpse found in the dungeon, but Wu didn't recognize the person. It turned out to be Mr. Kim, who had sacrificed himself to help Wu escape from the Ark. Mr. Hong was incredulous at Wu's lack of recognition and asked him about the corpse, to which Wu responded in disbelief, questioning the name Kim as being feminine. Mr. Hong reassured him and explained they found the body in the dungeon, wanting to know if Wu had any knowledge of the incident's rune. Miss Kim joined them, and Mr. Hong narrated the entire story to her. Feeling apologetic for doubting Wu, Mr. Hong handed him an ID and a hunter's license as a gesture of reconciliation and apology. Mr.